company that's worth over $20 billion closed one of its locations quite literally overnight? Well, that's exactly the question that those in the cattle industry are asking about the nation's second largest beef processing company, Tyson Foods. On April 3rd.
All right, Shalom. Before I get started, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahawah, bahasham, Rawchaa Rawchaa Qadash. This the brother Bakala Walam here with another hopeful, edifying lesson to the elect body of Yahawah, bahasham, Rawchaa. So she said, how can a beef plant, processing plant, as the one she spoke about, Tyson, is basically shutting down, basically, which I'm going to just play it once again.
Company that's worth over $20 billion. How does a company that's worth over $20 billion close one of its locations quite literally overnight? Well, that's exactly the question that those in the cattle industry are asking about the nation's second largest beef processing company, Tyson Foods.
So how a company such as Tyson Foods was worth $20 billion, which is the second largest beef processing plant, closed overnight? The simple answer is basically is prophesy that these events will happen, right? Well, which we're going to go into Isaiah 19 and 15. It says, neither shall there be any work for Egypt, which the head or the tail, branch or rush may do. So we know Egypt is a metaphorical place that represents America. Another name, basically another name for America, Egypt. Modern day Egypt is America. So the Lord prophesied that there was going to be no work for Egypt. So that's why you see a lot of companies shutting down. It's been a continuous thing. Companies are shutting down. A lot of people being laid off, just like this lady is. She said abruptly, this plant shut down. And it's basically simply put, it's prophesied that these things were going to occur. And one of them is people are going to be laid off. People are going to lose their jobs. So this is all prophesied to happen. That's basically the plans of the Most High Yahawah bahasham Rawchaa. So I'm going to just continue to play this video.
On April 13, 2026, Tyson informed their 2,500 plus employees at the Joslin, Illinois beef plant that they're out of a job. Not in a month, not in a couple of weeks, that very day. This location.
So these people didn't get any, prior notice that they was going to lose their jobs. They get lost it that same day. They got told the same day, and that same day they lost it. That's kind of harsh, right?
It was originally founded by the Iowa beef processors and has been in operation since 1983. Anyway, they process about 3,000 head of cattle every single day. And while workers will be compensated for the next 60 days, it still leaves the question, why overnight? Tyson announced at their shareholders meeting that they've lost an estimated $650 million in their largest segment, beef. And while they published the Joslin plant will be shutting down immediately, they're also shutting down 2 other locations. If you look at the cattle industry, back in 22, we hit major liquidation numbers because we had a multi-year mega drought affecting cattle producers across the nation. And what you've probably heard left us in a 75-year drought. This shows in the financials as packer margins first turned negative in September 24. And by October 2025, they were losing $126 a head.
So basically there's losses, which I'm going to finish this video out, but I'm going to go back to Isaiah 19 and verse 15. It says, neither shall there be any work for Egypt, which the head or tail, branch or rush may do, right? So it's prophesied that Egypt is going to lose their working force. Like businesses are gonna be shut down. I think they talked about that in also in Ecclesiastes 12. If I don't forget to bring that out, but I'm gonna go up here, right? I'm gonna read Isaiah 19 and verse 4 from the NET, right? It says, "I will hand Egypt over to a harsh master. A powerful king will rule over them, saith the sovereign master, the Lord Yahawah, who commands armies." Right? That harsh master and powerful king is your current commander in chief, Donald Trump, right? Verse 5, it says, "The water of the sea will be dried up, and the river will dry up and be empty." They were saying that there's a drought issue. That's one of the reasons why they couldn't produce the cattle as normal, because drought was an issue, right? Verse 6, it says, "The canals will stink, the streams of Egypt would trickle and then dry up. The bulrushes and reeds will decay, along with the plants by the mouth of the river. All the cultivated land near the river would turn into dust and be blown away. The fishermen will mourn and lament, all those who cast the fish hook into the river, and those who spread out a net on the water's surface will grieve. Those who make clothes from comb flax will be embarrassed. Those who weave will turn pale. Those who make clothes with a those who make clothes will be demoralized. All the higher workers will be depressed, right? So basically, that's what she's basically speaking about that now, man. Says these people are gonna turn and depressed because there's not gonna be any work out here for them to do. So they like, what are we gonna do to sustain ourselves, support ourselves, right? To continue their livelihood, right? Supporting their lifestyle, right? So those who make clothes will be demoralized. All the higher workers will be depressed, right? The officials of Zoan are nothing but fools. The Pharaoh wise advisors give stupid advice. How dare you say to Pharaoh, I am one of the sages, one well versed in the writings of the ancient kings, right? So it's talking about your politicians, your government officials, like they basically making unwise decisions, foolish decisions. That's basically what it is, right?
Numbers, because we had a multi-year mega drought affecting cattle producers across the nation, and what you've lost an estimated 600.
Right? She said they had a mega drought. That's what we just read, right? She says the waters will dry up, the rivers and the waters will dry up, right? And all the cultivated land near the river will turn into dust and be blown away, right? Cultivated. Just talking about your crops, right? Cultivated describes someone or something that is refined, educated, or prepared for growth through care and attention, like your fields. Jumping down, it says prepared for crops. Land or soil refers to land that has been tilled, plowed, or fertilized to grow plants or crops, right? So that's what he's describing there.
$150 million in their largest segment. beef. And while they publish the Joslin plant will be shutting down immediately, they're also shutting down 2 other locations. If you look at the cattle industry, back in 22, we hit major liquidation numbers because we had a multi-year mega drought affecting cattle producers across the nation, and what you've probably heard left us in a 75-year drought. This shows in the
75-year drought, water shortage. This says how much?
Cattle producers across the nation, and what you've probably heard left us in a 75-year drought.
Beef shortages, right? It contributed, this drought contributed to beef shortages, and this affected the whole nation.
It shows in the financials as packer margins first turned negative in September 24, and by October 2025, they were losing $126 a head. Overall, beef margins dropped 269% from 2025 compared to 23. And if you look at Tyson's public financial reports, their 2025 fiscal year, they lost over $1.13 billion in the beef industry alone. Now, this does not mean that Tyson came out in the red. Tyson is the largest multi-species protein processing company in the United States. That means they have a diverse portfolio, and that diversification left them in the black and even gave their executives a pretty handsome bonus. But it does explain why they're shutting down beef plants that are operating anywhere from 10 to 15% reduced processing capacity. But what does this mean for producers? Well, those in the Midwest are probably the ones most affected. The nearest facility is now 160 miles away, but really it's the lack of warning. The plant closure abruptness has left cattle feeders basically screaming to figure out logistics of where cattle are going to go. And just like when Lexington plant closed, live cattle and feeder cattle futures fell while pushing box beef prices higher. There are a couple theories out there. Some like to say that Tyson's getting out of the beef industry. That's their largest segment. I doubt it. And I also heard that some people are saying that this is a way to buy time to fix their facilities so they can process cattle that are bigger frames and be more efficient. While none of those theories are proven, it still is all speculation, but it does leave the question of what's going to come next. But what do you think? Do you think it's purely business and just mitigating operational losses, or do you think there's something larger at play?
So, yeah. So do you think it's all business, or you think something bigger at play? We know it's something bigger. It's basically prophecy taking effect, right? And
how does a company that's worth over
I'm gonna play this other video talking about they're importing beef from like Argentina, not Argentina, but Argentina, I think, right? And how that's going to further affect the cattle ranchers or the U.S. cattle industry as they import beef from I think this Argentina. So here it is.
Cheaper beef prices for you in the store, but it could come at a bigger cost for American cattle farmers. In a push for more affordable food, President Donald Trump announced that 300,000 metric tons, or roughly 660 million pounds of ground beef, would be imported to the U.S. for the next 90 days. Sold, he says, 25% under current market prices. Our Get the Facts data team found that the average price of ground beef climbed to a high of $6.89 per pound last month. A big factor behind that surge, the U.S.'s supply of cattle has shrunk to its lowest level in over 6 decades, due in part to drought and high feed costs. Agriculture economists tell us any quick fix to reduce beef costs could backfire on the very ranchers it aims to help.
Here's a policy response that addresses high beef prices for consumers, yet works to move prices lower that hurts that incentive to grow domestically and produce more beef here. And so, there ain't no free lunch.
Economists.
So what he just said was them importing this beef, right? And making it less expensive for the consumer, allegedly, right? It's going to hurt the local farmers or the local cattle farmers or cattle raisers, whatever they're called, basically farmers. It's going to hurt them to continue in their business. So that's what it says, and this is all coming from your government, right? That's why it says Isaiah 19 and 11, it says the officials of Zoan. Zoan is like a capital of Egypt, right? Let me see. It's like Zoan is like it's like it's a major city in Egypt, I think. It's like let's see. It says Zoan, an ancient city in Lower Egypt called Tanis by the Greeks, located on the eastern bank of the Tanitic branch of the Nile, the capital of the shared shepherd shepherd dynasty, built 7 years after Hebron and existing before Abraham, and the dwelling place of the Pharaoh at the time of the Exodus, right? So it's basically the capital of the shepherd dynasty, right? What it says is right. So basically, it's a major city in Egypt. So let you know what we're talking about. We're still talking about Egypt, right? So the NET, Isaiah 19, verse 11, out the NET, it says the officials of Zoan, meaning their governments, right? Government officials, the government. The officials of Zoan are nothing but fools. The Pharaoh's wise advisors give stupid advice. So basically, that's what they was proclaiming here, like how you're basically putting the local farmers at risk of not recovering. That's what they're saying. Like it can affect the U.S. cattle farm raisers by importing this beef from other countries. That's why he was saying the officials of Zoan are nothing but fools. The Pharaoh's wise advisors give stupid advice. How dare you say to Pharaoh, I am one of the sages, one well versed in the writings of the ancient kings. Right? So he's saying basically he's giving stupid advice, unwise advice.
Say the U.S. is already importing record amounts of beef this year, largely from Brazil and Australia, according to our Get the Facts data team. But experts warn while flooding the market may drop prices for consumers temporarily, it could discourage American ranchers from rebuilding their own herds in the long term.
That's not something that's going to happen. Because what can the cattle herd do in 3 months to make any decision changes to grow the cattle herd? Not gonna happen.
The National Cattlemen's Beef Association called the president's move a disappointment and said in a statement the announcement, quote, throws cold water on the prospect of herd expansion and sacrifices long-term stability for short-term messaging. Cheaper beef prices for you in the store, but it could come at a bigger cost for American cattle farmers.
So it said it could come at a bigger cost for American cattle farmers. Now I got this video right here, right?
So the government has decided they're going to allow 300 metric tons of imported ground beef into the country. Well, what you've just did is make our market for our American ranchers weaker. Now that we're at a 100-year all-time low in cattle, how are we supposed to ever build these numbers back up? You're making it where instead of supporting the American farmer, you're now supporting foreign beef, and you're only making us weaker, and they're making it harder on us.
So, what's the problem? I mean, were you looking for sympathy? Now, Wagyu Mama Ranch, I would ask you who you voted for, but you were asked that hundreds of times, and you refused to answer for some reason. You know what, though? I think I know why. You refuse to answer who you voted for, and you give bullshit excuses like this isn't because of one president or one policy. But you pretty much tell us in the first 2 seconds who you voted for.
So the government has decided they're going to allow...
So the government decided they're going to allow this. It was the government. It was Trump, and you know it. Farmers...
So that's all we need from that video, right? So they were saying like it was saying from the video, like your government officials, right? Your this current administration is not giving good advice by importing this beef in particular, right? So it's not wise, and it's like the farmer said. He said you are hurting the farming industry. So that's not wise advice to import this beef, and at the same time, it's going to affect the farming cattle farming in a negative way. So that's more or less that's not a wise advice. That's not wise advice, right? So like I said, it's prophecy playing out. Simply put, right? That's why this has happened. This is Ecclesiastes 12, and we'll start at verse 1. I just want to read it out the NET. I never read it out the NET, right? It says, so remember your creator in the days of your youth, before the difficult days come, right? So we're in these difficult days, these troubling times right now. That's why the children of Israel, you so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, and those that look like the other nations, but they go back to the nation of Israel. You must remember Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawahshi, the Lord, right? Before these days come, which repentance is basically what it means, right? And the years draw near when you say, I have no pleasure in them, before you get before you get old up in your age, right? Remember the Lord in your youth while you're young, right? It says, before the sun and the light of the moon and the stars grow dark and the clouds disappear after the rain. When those who keep watch over the house begin to tremble and the virile men begin to stoop over. Right? It says, when those who keep watch over the house begin to tremble, that's your elites, right? They control the heads of Esau, right? And the virile men begins to stoop over. What is the word virile? I just want to look it up, right?
Virile.
Or virile. Virile means having the strength, energy, or physical quality typically associated with an adult man, right? So basically, the ones in power, right, begin to stoop over, right? And the grinders begin to cease because they grow few, and those who look through the windows grow dim, right? The grinders begin to cease, right? The working class is begin to cease. Job loss, right? Factories closing, plants are closing, right? Things are drying up, right? And he says in Isaiah 19, the workers are depressed. The higher laborers or the higher workers are depressed, roughly paraphrasing, right? Because things are drying up, right? And those who look through the window be darkened, right? There's no future, right? You're looking for a future, but there's no future. Looking for a bright future, but there's none. And to look for, right? Verse 4, and the doors along the streets, and the doors along the street are shut. And when the sound of the grinding mill grows low, and the one is awakened by the sound of a bird, and all their songs grow faint, right? The working is going to become very little to slim, to no work is going to be going on, right? So these events are happening due to the prophecies that's written in his Bible, right? These things are prophesied to happen, and that's what basically they was talking about. That's exactly what's happened. And then I'm gonna go to Ecclesiastes, which I should have brought this out first, but this is pertaining to the farmers too. It's pertaining to the farmers, right? This the second Ezra chapter 15, I think. Yeah, chapter 15 and verse 11, talking about America, Egypt, right? Out the Good News translation, it says, I will use all my strength and power to bring them out of that land. I will bring disasters upon the Egyptians as I did earlier, and will destroy their country. Right. So this is all the will of Yahawah bahasham Yahushua through the power and will of Yahawah bahasham Yahushua to destroy Egypt, as he did before. He plagued Egypt before, right, the time of Moses. So he's going to bring these same plagues on Egypt again, which is America, right? Verse 12, it says the whole land will be in mourning. It will be shaken to its foundations when I, the Lord, Yahawah bahasham Yahushua, strike it and pound on it. So this is the work of Yahawah bahasham Yahushua, right? This is the work of the Lord. Verse 13, it says the farmers will mourn because of their seed will fail to sprout, and their trees will be destroyed by blight, hail, and terrible storms, right? So what is this word blight? It says blight means a disease that rapidly kills plants or anything that severely spoils, damages, or destroys the quality and growth of something, right? So that can goes into also blight says anything that severely spoils, damage, or destroys the quality or growth of something. So a drought can be compared to this blight, right? Also, it's talking about disease of bacteria. So yeah. So the farmers are mourning in Egypt. So you've seen examples of that in these videos. You know, the farmers are complaining. You know, there's many videos out there, you know, even the time when these droughts was going on, which they're still going on, but you know, there was talking about it major at one point in time. You probably could still find videos on droughts. You just said farmers. There's U.S. drought monitor. Let me see.
In American history, I don't know that you could ever find someone that is more pro-rancher, pro-farmer, pro-rural America than this president. And I think that's...
The farmers are mourning, right? Looking for the droughts.
Right now, I'm at Falls Lake, North Carolina.
Oklahoma wheat harvest advances despite drought.
Hey guys, Carly Davenport.
Moisture relief. So it all comes back to, you know, what is this?
U.S. drought to impact wheat balance sheet, right? So basically,
hey guys, Carly Davenport here with Oklahoma Farm Report.
I signed an executive order declaring a statewide drought emergency.
So This is May 2026. So there's drought still.
Hey guys.
Severe drought threatens crops,
This corn should be
livestock,
about 2 foot
and
taller than it is right now, and starting to almost fill the middles.
The drought is still an issue.
Farming,
you might not hear a lot of it being talked about,
2026 is one
but it's
Jason
still an
says he
issue,
will never forget.
right? And this is prophecy. That's why these things are occurring, right? So yeah, these are just simply put the reason why these things are happening, because it's prophesied to happen. It's in the words of Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawahshi, and it's the will of the Lord. You got to remember that it's the will of Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawahshi, it's the will of the Lord. We just ask that He have His mercy upon us. Hopefully, we're part of the elect, because mercy is promised to the elect of Israel anyway. So all we can hope for, the ones that believe in this truth, that we are part of the elect. That's all we can hope for, right? Because the elect is promised salvation and comfort, protection during these times, right? Because Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawahshi is causing all this. No matter what it is, it seems good or evil, the Lord is doing it. So I'm going to leave it off there. I hope it's edifying to the elect. And I want to say, call halayim la, Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawahshi, bahasham, Rawchaa Qadash, shalom, till the next time, Yahawah Rawchaa, which means Lord willing, and why abide with Paul.